Welcome to Better Circles, a podcast where we bring great people together to share ideas that are good for the planet. We're your hosts, Fiona Smith and Luke Phillips. Every episode, we sit down with our deck of conversation starter cards and talk about the things that are making us feel hopeful and inspired. Hey, Frankie. Hey, Luke.
Hey, guys.
Hello.
So welcome to this episode. Today, we're talking to Frankie Cox from Green On. If you live or work in Cremorne, you might know the salad bar. It's serving delicious, seasonal, healthy and sustainable lunches that encourage locals to be more connected to and curious about the food that they're eating. As always, we're recording here at Into Coffee, Luke's Cafe, which is on the land of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and we'd like to pay our respects to their elders past and present. So I first met Frankie a couple of years ago. She was speaking at a sustainable dinner at Cumulus as part of Melbourne Design Week, Melbourne Knowledge Week. Yeah. And I remember just being really blown away by your story and your journey, because you've had this whirlwind chefing career. You've come from, being an executive chef in New York when you were 25, and then you're a private chef and you're traveling the world and you're doing all this really high flying chefing. And then you return to Melbourne to sort of take this really grounded approach to food. And what really stuck with me from when you were talking and we were eating this amazing dinner and telling us about the way that you're just being really considered at Green On about everything from the producers to food waste to packaging to the fit out of the shop. I remember you talking quite a bit about that, and was facilitating the Q&A, and there were lots of questions about that sort of thing as well. And it was just this really considered approach to hospitality, because you had all this experience of when it's just got to be the biggest, the best, the most flashy, what that looks like. And then you've gone but what about if it's kind of the most thoughtful? You were there obviously because it was a sustainability event, but I got the sense at the time that was something that you were just trying to weave through things rather than really put up the big banner and saying, come to the Environment Cafe. It's more like that you were sort of just weaving it through. I'm trying to think of anything else that, it was a couple of years ago, like I said. Mm-hmm. So maybe I should throw to you, how's a fact check? What did I miss or what did I get wrong? That was a
very beautiful intro. I'm very flattered. Thank you. Your memory is very good too. I feel like that was definitely exactly where I was at that time. So it's really exciting to get to chat today and see how things have progressed in the shop and also my view on everything that we're doing. But it really comes down to having a purpose and being connected to that purpose. So the facts are all there.
Oh, good.
What made you step away from the more traditional kind of fine dining?
Yes.
And go for that more kind of community focus?
Yeah. Ultimately, a lot of it was to do with waste. Yeah. So working in more fine dining restaurants, the waste is sickening.
Wow.
And not only, you're, trying to get a perfect dice on celery and carrots and whatever, and everything else that doesn't fit into that dice goes into the bin. There's no compost bins. It's all landfill. And also I had a huge problem with the fact that only the tiniest minority of people could afford to eat at those prices. Yeah. And I think it should be a basic human right that people get to eat local, nutritious food. And so my ultimate thing that I wanted to achieve at Green On was to make good, local, nutrient-dense food without creating as little waste as possible, as accessible and approachable to as many people as possible.
Yeah. When you think about, probably got people hopefully listening from outside of Melbourne, but, Green On, it's in Cremorne. It's a place where there's lots of offices. Yep. It's in Melbourne and Richmond. Lots of people probably coming in on their lunch break. You're open for lunches. Yep. So it is really a different thing that people are looking for as well. That sort of lunch, working day lunch, or locals sort of coming in for lunch. And when you're talking about it being really accessible, it's it's not the thing that you do once a year on a special event.
No, it's obviously it's a luxury to do it every day, but we wanted to make it like an everyday kind of thing.
Yeah.
We wanted to normalize everything that we're doing in people's daily lives.
Yeah, cool.
Amazing.
So what's really cool is we're, of course, here in Into Coffee, like we always are. And you and Luke both running these sort of really values-driven, sustainability-driven, regenerative-driven businesses in hospitality. Into Coffee's doing so much cool stuff around. There's no single-use cups. There's everything on the menu's really been thought through, all that sort of stuff. And Frankie, you've been thinking through all those decisions as well. Really curious, someone who's not running a hospitality business, when you're thinking about everything so much, how much of it do you tell your customers? And how much of it do you sort of just do for your own peace of mind and why?
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, so it's interesting, like when you say, like when you're going through it all with yourself, like I sometimes don't understand that not everyone knows what I know.
Yeah.
And because that's just my world now. And, you know, even like with social media, the algorithm is all aligned with my values. And so I just live in this little orbit of this like purpose-led, impact-driven sustainability world. And I'm like, what do you mean you like don't compost or like that you still use plastic wrap?
Yeah.
So I think like first and foremost is that I have to always take myself out of that tunnel vision and make sure that the information that I think is ultimately common sense, it isn't. And like, how do we bring people up to speed in a really genuine way? So when we first started, I was really hesitant to bombard people with our messaging because I thought that would scare them away or that it would intimidate them because, you know, if people harrow you with these sustainability actions and you're not ready for it, you feel like you can't even step foot in there. And so I wanted to make the space really approachable and that it ultimately came down to having a really delicious meal. And then if you enjoy the meal, then that would open for a topic of conversation. So instead of going hard on all of our messaging that might not have come across that genuine because we also were brand new. So like I wanted to make sure that we could walk the walk before we talk the talk. Yeah, we just slowly started to get to know our regulars and, you know, they were regulars because they kept coming back for more. And then they started questioning, like, why do they feel so good from eating the food? Why are they so full for so long? And that gave us like the most amazing platform to have an incredible conversation with them because they were ready to receive it as well. And it also showed the difference from having a meal somewhere else, like that they're not the same.
Yeah,
and so if you're going somewhere else and the food is making you feel a little bit bloated or a little bit uncomfortable and you're hungry within 2 hours, maybe that was your norm beforehand, but now you know that food has the power to be so much more. And then when they're ready for it, we go beyond the plate and talk to them about the power that every meal that they have can have a positive impact on everything around us.
What I love about that is it's such a perfect case study that should be rippled into so many different businesses. The grounding is set in the values and the impact, but you've led with the quality and the product first and you build trust and then you can kind of deliver it in. And like you said, it's on more receptive ears.
Yeah. It's a slow burn though.
Yeah. And maybe sometimes we don't have the luxury of a slow burn, but you haven't been open. It's been two and a half years.
Yeah, 2.5 years.
Yeah. So we must open at the same time.
Yeah. What's your experience?
We've probably come at it from a totally different angle. We wanted the whole goal of opening up the cafe was to create a really transparent but engaging and attractive in the way that people want to come and ask more questions. But I think just the nature of the space and myself and the way that we communicate in general, I don't think it's preachy. We're not trying to push anything on anybody. You know, people can come in and experience it and dine in and maybe not even know what we're about. But there's, you know, little signs and things kind of scattered around the place. And the idea was over time, we'll build those stories out and you can kind of take bite-sized chunks of little information every time you come back. And it's almost like you kind of discover it each time. It's like, oh, and I didn't know they did this, like this mural that's behind us. The whole thing, even the paint, is made from waste and discarded items. And we've got a tiny little plaque over here, which is filled in amongst, you know, the total perfectly curated chaos that the mural is. And that's exactly how we want it because is, like you said, if you're going to be trying to push a message down people's throats, no one wants to be told what to do. But if you show what success looks like an amazing bowl of food, and then you feel incredible afterwards, you're like, okay, well, how do we do more of that? Well, actually, it's because it's local and sustainable. Super.
It's actually very similar.
That was me referencing your food.
No, but I mean, you know, like people keep learning every time they come in.
Yeah.
And they learn when they're ready to learn.
Totally.
Well.
Yeah.
I really like that you were talking about people eating the food first, coming back and then going, I feel good from this food. And it's not a scare tactic of going, your food is full of terrible things and it's going to make you feel bad. It's more that they've gone, hey, this is better than normal. Not trying to sort of make people feel bad about, or not bad about, but scared about what they're eating, because that can become really overwhelming. And even framing that what's good for the planet is also good for you. I think that's really nice.
Yeah.
That's like, again, what makes it such a good case study, because there's this classic trap. It's not just sustainability. It's any kind of impact driven business person, hardcore vegan, whatever it is. There's just so much passion and knowledge that has been consumed that it's really difficult to communicate it to someone effectively. And sometimes it's really difficult to communicate it in an optimistic way, which is part of the reason why we wanted to start this podcast in the first place, is because there's so many awesome stories and amazing people like Frankie, and it just kind of gets lost in the news cycle. And also the people that are amazing are usually quite humble and are taking this like slow burn approach. So we want to kind of amplify it and get it out there.
I think coming back to that too, what's good for you in terms of eating, in turn is also good for the environment. It's interesting for us to see. So our tagline is Eat for Impact. Yeah. And I always wanted it to be something that was really broad, rather than saying the word sustainability, where there is a lot of greenwashing about that, but people have a very narrow view about sustainability. And for the most part, people would only think of it as environmental impact. And so we wanted to talk about impact as a whole, in that each individual that comes through the door, we know that our business is going to affect them and impact them in a different way. And whether it's only one way of everything that we do, we know that it's impacting everything that we do. So, you know, say someone comes in because they care about their health and they want to eat healthy, and they know that we source our food from local producers. So they're coming in there for that benefit. But little do they know, unless we have the conversation, that every time they're eating for their own health, when they're at Green On, they're also eating for the health of the environment, and they're also fostering an incredible relationship with our community. Yeah. So no matter what reason you're coming in for, it ticks all the boxes. And like, we feel sometimes we're being sneaky about it. We're like, these people don't know that they're being sustainable, and they're doing, you know, they're probably, you know, whether or not they're sustainable at home, we are making sure that we can create an impact with every meal that's eaten, whether people know it or not.
Trojan horse.
Yeah.
One of the things I remember, I forgot this in the intro, I remember you talking about, was also about the culture at Green On with the team there, and how that was something that was really important to you. And you've mentioned community a lot of times. And that's another thing that the two of you have both got like really in common. You know, Into Coffee's got all sorts of amazing community stuff going on, and you're a small place. It's got some dine-in spots, it's got some takeaway options. How do you make a place like that sort of a community hub? What is it that food is doing, and are your customers like meeting each other? Because I know that happens here at Into Coffee.
That's why we, like I said before, the goal for the space was to have this kind of passive education. And we came from doing Intercarry first, which the typical or the easiest way to go about that would be a retail environment. But it's a totally different conversation, and it's a totally different dynamic of communication that happens in that space, because the person receiving the information isn't comfortable. There's just inherently a dynamic where they're being sold to. Yeah. Even though it might be genuine, you know, education, there's something beautiful about food and hospitality, you know, being hospitable and looking after people and caring for them, and, you know, giving them a coffee and having a conversation and, you know, caring about their day. Is like, I'm sure all of Frankie's customers, you know, sounds like you have an amazing relationship with the locals. And then the conversation just kind of happens naturally. You know, you're not trying to force it down anyone's throat, like we said before. I think it's just such a better, more trustful way to consume and share information.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, like it all stems from within my team first. And before, when I was talking about that sustainability can be perceived quite narrowly, for me, there's so much around sustainability in a work-life balance and just in the work environment as well. Like I've worked in some awful places and had some awful bosses that were quite detrimental to my career. And so I really wanted to have the opportunity to acknowledge and value and inspire my staff, because a tagline that I've heard for years is that happy people make happy food. And so that was really important for me to make sure that my staff felt great coming to work and that it was a great workplace environment and that, anything was possible for them to achieve. So we, first and foremost, make sure that that culture is really strong, and then they want to be there and they want to be a part of this brand, that they care about the message. Like nothing is rote learned. And we're not saying, you have to come, and like nothing's scripted and saying you have to come in and you do this. Like everyone really finds their own groove when they're at Green On. And even like when we prep the produce, I always say like there's no one Green On way to do it. It's whatever way you feel most comfortable with, as long as you get the same result and as long as it's not too slow. Like it still has to be within some kind of time frame, but everyone is so different. You can't fit a square peg into a round hole. And so when you like really nourish those relationships, you get the best out of each individual. And then in turn, they're giving the best possible experience to everyone that steps foot through our doors. So even now, if I know a lot of the regulars' names, I feel like I know like 90% of the names that come through the door every day. And it's just, I must have a good memory somewhere. But my staff, they know how important it is for me that we call each individual by their name. And so as soon as they hear me call someone's name, the next time that person comes in, they'll call them by their name. They don't feel like they need to be introduced to them, or, they'll introduce themselves, but why not call someone by their name? Like it makes your day, when you come in. And even the other day, a regular came in and I had recently asked her what her name was, and her husband came in with her, and she'd never been in with her husband before because it's her work environment. And I said, "Hi, Nicole," as soon as she came in, and her face just lit up, and her husband was like, "Oh, wow." Like, and I just felt so good about how happy she was about it. And it doesn't take anything.
Yeah.
So like, it's not just about environmental impact. It's about the impact that you can create in your community. And the more positive that is, the longer lasting your impact is going to have on them. And so when it comes to helping them with behavioral changes, again, that's going to be longer lasting. Like it all is one big ecosystem. It all fits in together.
Yeah. You're all about community. Like how does that track with your experience?
Yeah, good. Our community is probably slightly different, but a lot of ours kind of happens after hours, I guess. Yeah. Like a lot of people kind of meet and connect here, but then we have social impact meetups, which are in the morning, but then we do potlucks, which, one is this Thursday. Emmy, this amazing person that lives across the road, she's an incredible singer and she just put her first song out a couple of weeks ago. And so we had like a big listening party where she sort of performed for everyone. She sat right here.
So cool.
And there was someone that she works with and when she hit her first note, she just started laughing because she saw her friend that she works with every day's face who'd never seen her sing before, and she's fucking amazing. Like Amy Winehouse, very similar vibe, but really unexpected. So that was just a really nice moment.
Yeah.
A lot of that kind of stuff happens, and it's what I was trying to get at is I think it's gotten to a point now where we're not intentional about those things. The beautiful part about community is it sort of runs itself. I didn't come up with an idea to do potluck. I didn't have the idea to do the screening. It's co-run, and the space just becomes the platform to bring those people together, which is really beautiful.
Love that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so
very special.
We had Gemma Baxter on the podcast a couple of weeks back, and she really talked about like the need for more community spaces and spaces where people are like connecting directly. And it's really awesome that you've both got places that feel like that kind of community space. Is there anything else about both of you guys running such rad businesses that we should talk about, or should we look at cards?
Sure, it'll come up again.
Yeah. So Frankie, every episode we put out a couple of these cards. It's kind of like a card game. You can pick any of them, and if you've got an answer for it, great. If Luke or I have one, we'll jump in, and yeah, once we sort of played it out, we'll just pick another card. You're our guest, so you get to do first pick.
Okay. I'm going to start with a bang.
Yeah, go.
Love it.
Cool. So I chose imperfect progress. Do I read this?
Yeah, just the top bit.
So the climate movement needs billions of people making imperfect progress towards lowering our collective impact, not a handful of people doing everything perfectly. So what imperfect progress have you made recently? Well, so I chose this one because we did have a little chat beforehand and we everyone was a bit vulnerable as to the massive progress that they've made, not recently, but, you know, in the last probably decade or so, and how important it is to make sure that there's no shame around that and to be transparent around that. And I think it's probably a good tone to set now leading into the next cards. So, yeah, I admitted that I used to drink just plastic bottles of water. Like when I was a teenager, I was telling Luke where my parents now live, there was like Gardia in the water, and it like just put the fear in my mum that you couldn't drink tap water. Yeah. And so we had one of those never fail bubbler machines at home. And then we had plastic bottles to take when you left the house. And I just had like no connection with that being so wasteful. I had no connection that there was no end of life for it. And that, yeah, like it was just something that was going into landfill, like, you know, probably not being recycled either. So I like, it feels weird thinking back to that time because there's no like tangible meaning I have with where I was at. And now, I mean, I try not to make any waste in my personal daily life and my business daily life. And I find it quite easy to do. Like whether it's probably a lot to do with where we are at in the world right now as well. Like reusable water bottles have never been so in fashion. Yeah, it's flabbergasting almost. And I'm really intrigued now as to, you know, when you say like to throw something away, where does it go? We have to take more ownership around our consumption choices because ultimately we can't keep putting things in landfill, and there are so many people doing so many cool things to keep upcycling and to reuse things. And I would much rather be more mindful about how I consume and to invest in these small businesses or people doing incredible things than to flippantly just open something and throw it in a bin and not have a care in the world of where it ends up.
Yeah, yeah.
So
what shifted for you? Like, how do you go from, because it sounds like getting in the water is like kind of a justifiable reason to not drink tap water. Like, I've picked up stomach parasites when I've been overseas, and like that's drinking the tap water in some places is like dangerous stuff. So what shifted that for you?
I think it was just a slow progression of really maturing.
Okay, yeah.
I moved to New York when I was 23 years old. I'd never lived out of home before, and all of a sudden I'm in the Big Apple all on my own, and it's time to grow up. And it really shaped me into the person I am today, because I think it actually gave me a lot of space to think for myself. And in New York, I wasn't working with anyone that was my age. Everyone was a lot older than me, and I wasn't in any cliques or anything like that. To a degree, there's things that are trending in New York, but the trends aren't as solid as they are here. And I think that's a foundational thing from the environment that you grew up in. Like, I was left to my own devices to explore what I was passionate about, or like what I wanted to learn more about. And so I think slowly just kept shifting, and food has a lot to do with it. I've always been interested in where food comes from. And as soon as you start considering something like that, and it's also something that we all do every day, we all eat every day. If you find more connection and more meaning in something that you do on a daily basis, it just has a domino effect and it infiltrates your life everywhere. So it's been, a nice journey over the last few years.
That's awesome. Do you have one, Luke, imperfect progress?
Many imperfect progresses. But I'd like to take the opportunity to put something out for maybe a little bit of a group discussion or something that anyone wants to throw in, because it's something that we practice here a lot and I think about a lot, and I don't have any conclusive answers. I don't necessarily think that there is one. Recycling and upcycling. So we've only been trolled or trash talked. What's it called on social media when people
trolled?
Yeah. Once with what we do at Intercarry, and the person had a really valid point, and we had as many characters as you can have in a comments thread on a video on TikTok. But we had a back and forth discussion. I was like, it'd be great if we could. I'm more than happy to chat about this offline, but it was just around recycling and upcycling. It is progress, but it's far from perfect, and it isn't the solution to a circular economy, and it's definitely not regenerative. And what the line is between that being a really great example of reuse, or is it perpetuating the consumption cycle?
Like a get out of jail free card for the people who are like, no, it's all right, because when I chuck it away, someone smart's going to do something good out of it.
Totally.
It's like Red Cycle.
Oh, I know. I noticed how much more conscious I was of buying things in soft plastics once Red Cycle collapsed.
Yeah.
Even though I knew it was kind of downcycling, you'd be like, okay, now they're back to your point of like when you throw things away, like what's away?
Yeah.
And when you're like, okay, now I know for sure all of this is just landfill, even though before maybe that was the outcome anyway. And, with recycling, so.
Yeah, but it was always a broken system, because for the average punter to see a symbol on packaging, then they're just being led by the label. They think that they're doing the right thing, and they're like, oh, I don't need to think about it anymore because it's going somewhere.
Yeah, someone's going to deal with it. What do you think?
My opinion on that is that what's broken is the material.
Yes, exactly. So we need to design that out.
Which is the imperfect progress part. It's like how long can we continue to give it one more loop?
Yeah.
Before
Do you know what kills me?
Just ends in landfill anyway.
Cucumbers.
Wrapped in plastic.
So I actually did a little bit of research in this, because I was like, why are continental cucumbers wrapped in plastic but Lebanese aren't?
Yeah, right.
And the skin on a continental cucumber is really thin and has a really high percentage of water. So as soon as it gets packed, it would disintegrate
I've heard
on its
that.
travel.
Yeah.
So the reason why there's plastic on it is to increase its shelf life. And so the sustainability outlook on that is that it's stabilizing the longevity of the food item. So rather than being food waste.
But we have Lebanese cucumbers.
Yeah. So why don't we just stop growing them?
Yeah.
So why don't we just only grow cucumber varieties that have a thick enough skin that are going to make it on the shelf?
Yeah, if we can take seeds out of watermelon, surely we can put thicker skin on a cucumber.
Have you seen what bananas used to look like? They were all seeds.
Oh, gross.
And that was when they were first domesticated, they were these like small things that were like old chunky seeds that would have broken your teeth. And then we've, over generations, domesticated them into being all fruit. If cucumbers have got skin that thin, we did it through selective breeding.
Yeah, that's the worst kind of Band-Aid solution.
Yeah, I'm completely with you, Luke.
Oh, man, it's so weird because I've heard that about cucumbers before and I've gone, oh, yeah, I guess the plastic makes sense. And it's like, yeah, but why are we growing something that can't travel? And you hear so much about how amazing heirloom varieties of tomatoes and stuff aren't grown anymore because they don't travel well. And it's like, oh, that's really a shame. That's why you should buy from farmers markets. Maybe if you want your tissue paper cucumber, you can buy it from a farmer's market, not a supermarket.
Yeah. You go direct to the grower.
Yeah. That's so weird. I haven't ever reframed it that way before of like, well, then let's stop growing them because there's perfectly good cucumber that doesn't need plastic.
Do they yield well? Is that why?
Oh, good question.
Well,
because the Lebanese is...
Well, yeah, it's just they're always probably grown in a monoculture. They would grow with any kind of spray.
Sure.
So that's another reason to eat Lebanese cucumbers. Don't go for the continental.
Yeah, I mean, they're just nicer anyway.
Yeah. Fee, do you want to talk about your imperfect progress?
Is this the story we're talking about? All right. No, you know what? It's great because I actually think it does tie back.
Another one?
No, we'll do this one. It's all good. Okay, so
You'll just never tell me anything about this.
I told Luke this the other day and
In full confidence.
yeah. No, I mean, because we were talking about Green On, and I think what's really cool is it's a really thoughtful and, like we talked about, sustainably sourced place, but it's not vegetarian or vegan. Mm-hmm. You've got chicken in the salads, but then you're also selling broth, and like that's a way to make sure like the whole produce is used. I love that about it. Like it's actually, it goes beyond the obvious. But yeah, we're talking about how Green On kind of flies under the radar a bit. It's not vegan, not vegetarian, and how once 16 years ago, I walked into beloved Mexican vegan restaurant Crippy Taco, and I was pretty new to Melbourne, and I worked up the road and I'd seen there was a Mexican place, and I was like, man, yeah, I could go a chicken burrito for lunch today. And I walked in and I was reading the big menu and I said, there's no meat here, is there? And the person working there was so proud. She was like, no, fully vegan. Oh no, fully vegetarian. That's what they are. And I was like, oh no, I just really wanted a chicken burrito, and I walked out, and then it took me so long to go back ever again. So I'm like, they're going to recognize me and be like, boo.
Shame.
And now you're mostly veggie, aren't you?
Mostly, yeah. I don't eat bummed meat. I eat, actually, you know what? After that dinner that you and I were both at, where they served wild venison from feral deer, I just was like, so where do you buy this? And that's what I eat. So before that I was eating kangaroo, and now it's like I basically, it's kangaroo or venison, but mostly like feral meat.
And where do you buy it?
I buy it from either Discovered Wild Foods, although they've been hard to get from recently. I just think it's because it's not farmed, it's cold, and so maybe they've had different colours.
That's supply and demand.
Yeah, but then there's another place called Australian Meats, and that's South Australian, and it's like they do wild boar, they do venison, they do kangaroo.
Yeah.
You successfully Trojan horsed a wild boar onto the Christmas table last year, is that right?
Luke. All my secrets. Yeah, I did.
Please keep telling me stuff.
My brother usually does Christmas ham and was having a really super busy end of the year. And my sister, who's fully vegetarian, she was like, okay, well, I'll bring the ham. And I was like, no, hold on that. I'll do it. And I was like, I'm sure I can find a wild boar ham. And Australian Meats do it, and it was so good.
So cool.
And I told people if they asked, like my mum was like, well, hang on, we've been doing Christmas without you. You know, Fiona doesn't eat meat. And so now suddenly you're bringing the ham. And I was like, well, it's wild boar. So actually it's been culled anyway. They're a menace to the environment, the hooves, the way they eat. They're super aggressive. I was like, it's great that these have been taken out of the environment, like more of that. And I'll eat it. So if anyone asked, I told them. But also when I told my sister I was going to do it, she was like, we're not allowed to go on like a big rant.
Yeah.
She's going to hate that I framed it that way too. It was more like, it wasn't like she was telling me what to do, but it was more just like, okay, well, just if you're going to do it, just.
But like, isn't that kind of like how we've been doing things too? You know, you just do it quietly.
Yeah.
And if people enjoy it, then you can tell them what it's all about.
And the thing I said was like, some people have been a bit like, oh, I can't believe that people wild boar without them knowing about it. It's like, no one asks where the pig was farmed.
No
one asks what they were fed.
And I'd rather eat that than a pumped up on hormones regular ham.
It lived a free wild life and had one bad day at the end. But it wasn't like transported to an abattoir.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sure I'm going to get hate on that.
I was going to say,
about that.
when you were talking about the bone broth before, we're not wasting anything that goes in there. And so we roast our chickens whole, we pick the meat, and then we use the bones to make the bone broth and all of our food scraps. We actually have had vegans have it because that's all part of the whole closed loop system
Depends
of
on
eating.
what your values are.
Yeah.
Why you're vegan.
Yeah. And the fact that we're utilizing the entire animal, like we're doing it justice, that, you know, it's so considered. So that's been really interesting to see.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh, just one more thing, my imperfect progress, because I think, when you're like laughing about me wanting a chicken burrito.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Sorry.
But also.
And walking out because it wasn't there.
I know. Oh,
did you get one somewhere else? Probably not.
No, there's nowhere else to get one. Yeah. I don't know what I ate.
Trippy Taco is delicious, by the way.
So good. They're the best burritos. I mean, I can't even believe. Like I look back on,
Yeah, you missed out.
16-year-old. Yeah, 16 years ago me. But I mean, I made up for it since.
Maybe they should have just said yes. Like, yes.
Sure, it's chicken. But one of the other things with that, and I mentioned when I was saying, my sister's vegetarian, but she was like, oh, God, okay, fine, I'll do the ham. I think about this with imperfect progress and what you were talking about with once people have eaten the food, it's really good. I stopped eating meat because my sister had come and visited me. I was living in the States and we'd been like traveling together a lot, and I'd been eating vegetarian because I was traveling with her. And then also my boyfriend didn't eat meat and I'd been doing like road trips with him. And so I was like, and I said to my sister, I've basically been vegetarian for the last few weeks or last month or something. It's great. And she said, yeah, I mean, you feel the same way I do about the environment. So I sort of don't understand why you do eat meat. And if you're liking it now, and she didn't say you should be, but it was like, you and I feel the same way about this stuff and you've been able to do it. And it was really the opposite of telling me what I should do. And I still,
that you get to there on your own.
Totally got to there on my own. But I'd already been doing it. And then there was someone that was like, doesn't this feel better?
Yeah.
And it was a really interesting way. And it's one of those things where I told her that a couple of years ago and she was like, I'd never realized that was the
turning point.
Yeah. It was that one question that she asked and it was like so perfectly delivered because it came from such a place of no judgment, kindness. We feel the same way about this stuff, like knowing that, not trying to manipulate or like convince me. Yeah. Anyway, I thought that sort of ties in with what you're talking about with people coming regularly and going, why do I feel so much better with this food?
Yeah. And being ready to make the decisions on their own.
Yeah, totally.
Next card.
Yeah. It's a shame there's not a card of Fiona's embarrassing story.
Add it on there.
Yeah. Oh my God, we should. All right.
Ticked off anyway.
Your choice.
Maybe a news snapshot.
Oh yeah.
News snapshot where we each look up from our news scrolling and say, have you heard about this?
Have you got one or do you?
I do have one. Yeah. It's probably tied in a little bit with what I was talking about before about, the perpetuating the cycle and where's the line. Maybe it's why it's top of mind. I heard what is a really amazing story and it's a huge achievement. Tetra Pak, which is the alternative milk carton product itself, the actual carton. In Shanghai, there is 800 Starbucks stores alone, which is just a wild, fun statistic in itself. And they've figured out a reverse logistics chain. So all of the milk cartons get washed by the baristas and then they go back to the distributor and then they get shredded and turned back into a product that Starbucks was already purchasing from virgin sources. So they get made into little napkins. I think it's 70 or 80% of the napkin is made from the milk carton, which from an innovation perspective is really impressive.
Yeah.
And they've got the story written on the back of the napkin. So it's that same kind of like passive education. They're not sort of preaching and yelling about it. So yeah, that's my positive, successful story that I've heard in the last week. But it's also slightly sort of colored with whether that, it's kind of the imperfect progress in a way. It's sort of, it isn't the finish line, but it is a step forward.
A massive step forward. And also considering Starbucks is such a huge chain all around the world, imagine if they could implement that in every country.
Yeah.
Yeah. And imagine if the fact that they've decided to do a reverse logistics thing
is speaking volumes of where they're at.
Yeah. And could that then be leveled up to other things or like once they demonstrate what can be done?
Well, then it creates a competitive edge in their entire industry and what other massive companies are going to step up and try to be a little bit more closed loop in their operations as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Luke and I talk about this a bit and we talk about this in my work as well. The idea of working with the people who are already doing everything really well or like trying to redirect the giant tankers that are doing things.
Yeah, that if they just changed one tiny little thing, imagine the impact that would have.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes you need the demonstration of small businesses showing it can be done, but then there's still like, well, can it scale? And once the big businesses can show it can be done.
What I think, and maybe an added positive takeaway from that is Tetra Pak have an internal sustainability department. They're big enough that they would have to, but internally, that's a huge win. That gives, positive kudos and good momentum for that team to then go on and tackle more things. And they've got credibility within the company. So the big tanker is turning, but it's also building up some kudos points with its other tanker friends.
Yeah. Ultimately, Tetra Pak can't properly be recycled, right? Because it's got so many different materials in it.
Yeah, they're doing some pretty cool stuff in the actual, like the tech of the material itself. It's such a fascinating case study. I can't wait to see how it plays out over the next couple of years, because in the cafe industry and, for a lot of industries, it's a really good example of a product that's designed so incredibly well to function exactly how it was supposed to function, but it didn't initially consider the
end of life
environment and the sustainability aspects of it. So it's rippled in convenience from the consumer side, the logistics, the manufacturing, the cost. It's just a wild product and system in itself. So if it can transition to a sustainable material that doesn't really send like ripple effects down the supply chain, either that happens and the innovation happens internally and the system
and like your safe board as well.
Yeah. So similar to the napkins. Or it's a bit of a blockbuster situation and Netflix comes along and just like changes the landscape, which is, other ways not worlds away from that.
Yeah.
Next.
Yeah, so we had a pop-up at the Australian Open this year, at the start of the year. And the only thing that would get me across the line to do it was that we were completely committed to being zero waste. That we would have reusables, because they were kind of to and froing with whether they were going to have Green My Plate this year. And it was so cool to see. Like, it was so easy.
Yeah.
It was not hard. And while they had someone from Green My Plate at our stand all day and night to educate people on where the bowls went, that people did need the education. And then there were regular bins dotted around the grounds like any other bin, and that's just where it went. So it wasn't changing. No. It was like, there was a Green My Plate bin, a reusable bin.
Yeah.
So it wasn't polarizing in how it changed people's habits.
Well, you didn't have to go all the way back and drop it off. It was just like, cool.
And it wasn't like take it to this wash station or something. It was like the bin is with all the other bins.
Yeah.
So your muscle memory is still the same. So it's not hard to do.
That's cool.
And we ended up putting out 14,000 meals across 3 weeks, and there was the only thing that was slightly wasteful was the forks. So it'd be interesting to be able to see that at a large scale, but all the bowls, it was just so amazing to see that it's possible.
That's cool.
Yeah, I love Green My Plate. Yeah.
Will?
Yeah.
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 He came in and chatted at our Circular Innovation Club. It's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a champion.
Okay.
Your chosen card.
Okay. I'm going to go with it's still good.
Oh.
What it says on the card. So, obviously when we talk about zero waste, I'm very passionate about food waste, and I know it comes easy for me because I've had over 10 years experience of being a chef. And so, I would really love to be able to shed some light on that to everyone and make them feel more confident in reducing their food waste. We were kind of chatting a little bit before we started about how it's so crazy how supermarkets have normalized what people think is the part that you eat of the produce.
Yeah.
I shriek when I'm at friends' houses and I see that they just cut off the very top of the broccoli florets, like not even a little bit down of the stalk. And it's like the very top and the stalk's in the bin. Red peppers, like the top of that being cut off, and there's still all the juicy veg around the side, even, down to carrot tops and cauliflower leaves and things like that. And so, touching back on about the bone broth, well, any kind of broth, it doesn't have to be bone broth, is the most amazing way to utilize your food scraps, but then to also create something that's going to enhance your meals out of nothing.
Yes.
Like, you know, sometimes when you're like, oh, you know, what you've cooked just doesn't have a lot of depth of flavor. What if you had have used a stock that you'd made and that had been entirely out of food scraps? And so when the cost of living pressures are getting greater and greater, it's really important that we utilize our entire shopping list.
Yes.
Like there's no point wasting it when you're paying a fortune for it. And I know that every time someone goes to do a shop now, they're dumbfounded by how little they're leaving and how much it's cost.
Yeah.
So if I'm ever at my parents', I keep all their food waste. I know that my mum's probably not going to make the broth, but I'm going to do it. So I was at their place on the weekend and I took all the leek scraps because leeks are so wasteful, but they're so delicious.
Yes.
So, you know, you don't want to waste 3/4 of the leek. And so I have
Roasted
a little
leaves.
delicious.
So good.
And, you know, you can even vitamize that into a powder and sprinkle that on anything for seasoning. Like there's so many different options. The world's really your oyster when it comes to monitoring what you're throwing out. It's worth saving anything, even if like a carrot is turning and going soggy. Well, it's amazing in any kind of soup, stew, casserole. But if you don't feel comfortable doing that, put it in your stock. Like, don't just throw a piece of turning food into the compost, definitely not into the landfill bin. Like
100%.
Everything has life in it.
100%. Yes.
Yeah. And also it's a disservice to the farmers that grew it. A farmer has worked on their soil for years to grow that perfectly for you. Then it's taken all the food miles to get to you. And if there's been any packaging or handling in the way, like it's not enough, you know, to just waste it. Like we all need to be a little bit more committed to the cause and connected to it. And stop wasting food.
Oh my God.
Love that.
I was thinking about this knowing you were coming in, and my It's Still Good was going to be kind of similar. Like it's not the bone broth thing, but same. Like I collect all of the kind of triage, the sort of things. It's like, no, that's still good. And you know, I can still make something out of that. And in the freezer, I've got a bag and it's all the tops of things and scraps of things. Garlic skins. Yes. All of that.
Yeah.
And I boil it up into veggie stock, but I also do this thing where you cook it with salt and olive oil and cook it down and then blend it and it makes a paste, just stock paste. And so that doesn't take up as much space in the freezer. And
there's no excuses when people are like, oh, my kitchen's not big enough or my fridge isn't big enough. It's like, oh, there's a way.
So I taught it as a workshop at Queen Vic Market, the Moving Feast kitchen, and we got scraps from a cafe kitchen and they have worm farms and it would have usually gone to the worms. And someone said to me when we put down the food in front of everyone, he goes, I thought you were about to talk to us about composting. I was like, that's all edible food. Yeah. And we're going to cook it and you're going to have something delicious that's going to make all of your food better.
That's so good.
Yeah.
But like I really do understand is that it does really is showing someone how to do it.
Oh, it's such a big thing. We put the recipe on the label that people took home. We were like, refill this jar. Yeah. It'll last, you know, months to try and like get the recipe. I was like, how scrappy can this get? How far from the bit that people think is the edible bit can I go? And so I made all these batches and one of them was like pretty stringy because it was basically all parsley stalks,
and carrot tops,
garlic skins and the tough, not the really papery onion skin, but the next layer down. And it's so delicious. I finished it now, but it was like so delicious.
And also if you can get past certain things and how it feels in your mouth, like maybe it's not normal, maybe it's a little bit stringy, it's adding so much flavor. Yeah. And I can easily get past that. Like if it's delicious.
Oh, the thing is I could have just blended it more, but I was trying to work out what I could teach in a half-hour class. Yeah. How long can I cook it for? How long can we blend it for? Only like hand blenders and stuff. I'm making that stock paste and giving it to people now out of my own veggie scraps and being like,
so far.
you can use this. And I'll use a scoop of that anytime I'm thinking that something needs salt. Just chuck a bit of stock paste in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like you say, it just makes, if you think, oh, why isn't it that delicious?
Yeah. I think it's also worth noting while we're talking about food waste and recipes can be so wasteful. You know, like when it calls for a tablespoon of parsley and someone goes out and buys a whole bunch of parsley, like that is when food gets wasted the most because you know, if you're not confident in the kitchen, you're like, I don't know when I'm going to find another recipe that has parsley in it. So my advice to people when they do that is trust your intuition a bit and back yourself. And if you like parsley, add more. And if there's only a quarter of the bunch left, it doesn't matter. You don't have to stick to the rules. Yes. Just add it in, like reduce the amount of waste. If you know that you're probably not going to use it afterwards, it's not going to ruin your dish if you add it in.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, yum.
Yeah. I have a kind of disdain for the recipes that require you to go and find like a really specific thing. And I'm just like, maybe I could use this instead. It's like if you know how to sub things, it's like really, really good for waste. I feel like we could keep talking, but we should.
I feel like one thing that I haven't really touched on is like the materials in the shop. If there's any time, like our bench top and
I think that'd be awesome. All right.
Can you tie it into a sandwich story?
Do my best. Like one thing that got me really excited about the whole process of Green On was a lot of the building materials or furniture and just the storytelling along the way and meeting the people that were so passionate about what they were doing. So when it came to doing a bench top, I did the whole build myself, and some friends that are in the construction industry were helping me find trades and things like that. And I said, I have found this incredible material for the bench top. It's called Better Stone. It's made from recycled glass bottles and it's made in Melbourne. And they were like, sounds expensive. And I was like, well, it's not expensive to our values. And what would be the substitute? And they said Caesar stone. And I was like, I don't want people's deaths on my hands from Caesar stone. Like in the end, it was $3,000 difference. And we are building a business for longevity. We hope to be there for a long time. That I just don't see the point in compromising on your values to save some money that's so toxic to the people who are cutting it, but also to our shop as well. Like the amazing thing about being in our kitchen is how clean the air is. The kitchen is spotless as well. For a kitchen, like everything feels so clean because it all comes down to the materials that we chose that are non-toxic. So the bench top was actually just a joy to be along the way for the process. Now the bench itself has a story too, and it's part of our purpose. And then the stools are also really cool. They're from repurposed HDPE plastic. So things like shampoo and conditioner bottles and laundry bottles and things like that. So yeah.
Who made them? Where are they from?
They're from By Design in Sydney.
Cool.
Yeah. Coincidentally, they just happen to have them in our brand colours. So it all seemed to, make
Love
sense.
That.
And then our outdoor tables are made from a material called Kobe board, and it's repurposed wood chips and concrete. As soon as you open up one door, another door opens, and you can keep finding people doing incredible things. Obviously, we're different in our approaches with our furniture. You've recycled, existing furniture.
But our whole coffee bench is built out of Tetra Paks, the Saveboard stuff.
Yeah.
And then all of our workbenches up the back in the studio are from these divider panels. I think they got taken out of like Voudemont or something, and we just happened to be in a warehouse and they were sitting there.
Amazing.
And so we kind of like cut them up and repurposed them. And then the white panels were getting pulled off a panel out of 4 pillars.
Yeah.
And it was just like the material was too cool. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I sat on it for 2 years. I'm not a hoarder, but I was like, this is just too good to pass up.
Yeah. But shouldn't anything be too good to waste? Isn't that how we should be looking at the world?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. I really love the aesthetic Green On. Yeah, I love the story with the bench top. That's the same with the save board that you've got there. There's something about the fact that where you're serving people has that sort of material story. I also love the foraged furniture at Into Coffee. Yeah, and it's cool to see that there's like not one way to do it. Both approaches have kept things that are too good to waste out of landfill. They've started conversations. It is really nice to see that underlying values can look really different for two cafes not that far away from each other, but actually quite different markets and vibes. Into Coffee and Green On show that the underlying values can find an expression that's relevant for its market or its space. If you're creative.
Yeah. There's a zero waste world to suit everyone.
Oh. Yeah. Exactly. Love that.
It's a very inclusive world. So join today.
Yeah. $2.95. Last question for the session. Who would you name a sandwich after?
Me?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it can't be either of us.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, okay, so.
Again.
I would call the sandwich the Use It All sandwich. Named after my amazing zero waste heroes. Who started Cornersmith in Sydney, and their cookbook Use It All it is absolutely the practical, accessible guide that's the answer to that frustration and kind of like shock that you feel when you go to people's kitchens where they haven't had your chefing experience or understood what they can do. Like that, it's the best. It's this cookbook that basically is, if you've got leftover this, do this. If you've got leftover that, do this. And so the use it all sandwich would be whatever was around the kitchen, to be the chutneys or the pickles or the whatever was going on.
The kitchen sink sandwich.
Yes. Yeah. And it'd be joyful in its surprisingness. You'd be curious about it all the time. And I'd love the idea that people would be going, oh yeah, well, you can do that. You can eat that.
Yeah. And I think also too, what's so special about something like that is it really connects you to the seasons as well, because it's like, well, this has even shifted in the last week because that was the end of that season and now we're into this season. And no 2 weeks are the same in terms of the produce that you get in. Yeah. And I think that we really need to normalize that.
Yeah, yeah. Mm. And the cookbook is arranged like it's got a basket, like a weekly shop. The whole like tagline is buy less, buy whole and use it all. And so back to your roast chicken and there's the one where it's like a fish, a whole fish, cook it this way and then with the bones make a stock and then, it's so good. Yeah.
Things that spark joy, make people want to do things more. Like you look so happy talking about that. It's so much easier to make a shift in what you need to change if it makes you happy.
Yeah, yeah. And I bought that cookbook for people as a gift because it's just like, you will love this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of looping back to how the conversation started.
It's closed loop.
How you just described that is not preaching at all. Yeah. But like you said, the joy on your face.
Yeah.
We both want to learn more and be like, I want to dive into that world and grow less, buy whole as well.
Yeah.
Whereas if you were communicating that exact same story through the lens of talking about how bad food waste is, people would be less likely to dive deeper.
You feel guilty and then you're like, oh,
and they get their back up.
And then people, and they start making excuses and they're like, you don't understand how busy I am. And
you don't understand how busy I am. Said everybody.
It's usually true, but they're not mutually exclusive.
Do you have a sandwich?
I think probably like a real turning point in what completely grounded me and actually regenerated me and my philosophies at the time was I did woofing at Blackburn Farm in Stanley, just outside of Beechworth, during COVID. And Jade Miles and Charlie Showers are the couple that run that, or they steward the land there. And it is just like, to me, everything what it means to regenerate. And I think also too, we do talk a lot about sustainability, but it's actually not enough to sustain everything that we've been doing. We need to regenerate, and I think they're an amazing example of that. So I would.
Did you say woofing?
Yeah, woofing.
What does that mean?
Woofing stands for Worldwide Work on Organic Farms. So it's when you go and volunteer on an organic farm.
Right.
Yeah. So I stayed there for a month in a cute little caravan on the property and just, learn about their regenerative practices and planted lots of rows of berries and prepped soil. That alone was an amazing experience to do during COVID. It's taught me a lot about what it means to regenerate. And so, I would name the sandwich, the Jade, the Jade Sando. Thanks, Jade.
How many of those operations are there around Australia? Do you know?
To do woofing?
Yeah.
Oh,
heaps.
Yeah. It's normally like a backpacker thing to do because you essentially get free board. Often a barrier for people to learn is like that they feel like they don't know anything about it, so they couldn't possibly get a job somewhere or something. But if you do it in a volunteer space, both parties are so willing to share all their knowledge, and it's a nice environment to learn in with no pressure.
For sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Regenerating not just the land but the community.
Yeah.
And you're growing food in a really organic and sustainable and regenerative way, but also bringing more people on that journey. That's really lovely.
Yeah, it's like everything about it is meaningful.
Love that.
We didn't ask, what would the Jade sandwich be? What would be on it?
Oh.
Don't mean to put you on the spot.
It would be seasonal.
Yes. Of course.
So whatever comes in.
Sanger of the week.
Yeah. I did a plate on the opening menu of the Square One Cafe in the Rialto. And so they asked a bunch of chefs from around Melbourne to come up with the dish to put on the menu. And I know that they have a farm, Common Grounds, in Freshwater near Torquay. And so I wanted to be able to utilise as much as possible from that farm. So instead of writing a recipe, I wrote a framework of different components for the plate. and whatever came in that looked good, there was to be one that was roasted, one to be fermented, one to be pureed. And so the whole dish will always come together, but it was super agile. And so I wanted to keep,
idea.
Yes.
I wanted to keep the chefs interested as well and keep them excited about looking at what was coming in that day. But also, to make people more aware of how shifting the seasons are. So sandwich would be a little bit something like that.
That's epic. Well done.
That. Thank you. I feel like we could just keep talking and talking, but it is time for the very last card, which is 6 Degrees of Brian Eno.
As long-time listeners of the show will know, we wrap up every episode with a call out to also someone who has a sandwich named after him here. That's a staple, the cheese toasty, Brian Eno. If you're listening, we would love to get in contact. We're printing more and more shirts with "Please introduce me to Brian Eno" on there. So if anyone knows him or where he is, Fee and I, and I'm sure Frankie could free up a schedule next Wednesday evening.
Intrigued.
Yeah, we'd love to have you over for a nice organic circular dinner.
Nice.
That sounds beautiful.
When you say you're intrigued, do you want to know why Brian Eno?
Yeah.
Go on, Luke.
Why Brian Eno?
Why Brian Eno?
Do you want me to do the Brian Eno spiel?
Little. A little one. Short one.
I just love people that are able to blend two different worlds that come together as one. And he's, kind of this crazy artist that's also a crazy scientist. And he's able to translate both of those worlds and understand them in layman's terms that doesn't sound, it's sometimes mildly pretentious, but it doesn't sound like wanky. It's very acceptable and it's very engaging, and it's very focused on, change from culture rather than, I think the way that I learned about sustainability through the industrial design lens is, change by material. And, that's just opened up. I learned through the whole world of, behavior change and culture and psychology and how important that is in the space of sustainability through Brian Eno. Thank you. And thank you, Frankie. That was awesome. It was really
Thanks,
cool.
guys. Thanks for having me. I loved it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Happy days.
It's been so much fun.